Hey guys, Iceberg here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to explore the Kiwi Ears Etude, a hybrid IEMs that attracting a lot of interest for the unique driver configuration and innovative approach to the sound reproduction. The Etude, priced at around $119, combines a dynamic driver, 3 armatures, and the star of the show, the Kiwi vibration transducer. This isn't typical bone conduction driver, it's a vibration driver designed to add a physical, tactile dimension to your listening experience. Does it live up your expectation? Let's find out. Fasten your seatbelts, because this is going to be a detailed journey. And before we jump in, I just wanna say a huge thanks to the Linsol for the support and the Kiwi Ears Etude. Really appreciate it. As always, all the purchase links are in the description below the video. Okay, let's go. The Kiwi Ears Etude comes in a compact box, practical and no frills, with a familiar Kiwi Ears design. On the front, you can see the shelves themselves, the Kiwi Ears logo, and the model name with the driver configuration. On the side of the box lists the key specs, while the other highlights the hybrid driver setup. Beryllium-plated dynamic driver, 3 custom balanced armatures, and the main feature, 1BN vibration transducer. The design and layout of this design reminds me of the Astral, Aeroso, Either models. Everything is done in a stylish and understated way. Inside the box you can find the Etude shells placed in the cardboard mold with the foam cutout. There is also a branded accessory box that contains a spacious hard carrying case, 3 sets of silicone ear tips, a 2-pin cable and manual, along with warranty and quality certificate. The cable included with Etude is a 4-core oxygen-free copper wire with a 3.5mm plug and 2-pin connectors. Visually, it's a standard black braided cable that is lightweight, flexible, soft and playable to the touch, minimizing tangling compared to the stiffer cables. There's a metal splitter in the middle of the cable, and at the end are ear hooks with 2-pin connectors that fit comfortably over your ears. That said, the cable seems a bit thin and basic for an IEMs in this price range. The Kiwi Ears Etude comes with 3 sets and 9 pairs of silicone ear tips, each available in 3 sizes. But however, they are made of rather stiff silicone that doesn't hold its shapes well and can cause some discomfort during extended wear. There are 3 different sets. The first is the transparent white tips with a narrow bore. The second is the black tips and also with a narrow bore. And the third is the grey tips with a red core and a slightly wider bore. Given the average build quality and somewhat uncomfortable fit, I would recommend replacing them with more comfortable ones. That said, for the sake of objectivity in this review, I'll be using the greyed red tips with the standard bore, as they offer the most neutral and balanced experience out of the 3. The Etude shells are made of semi-transparent resin using 3D printing and polished to a shine. Through the resin you can see the driver arrangement and how they installed inside. As you know, Linsol recently did a tour of the Kiwi Ears factory facility, showing every step of IEM making. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. So based on what we have seen on this tour and what we have on the hand, the build quality of the Kiwi Ears shells is truly impressive, and the Etude is no exception. Every detail is carefully crafted and the overall build feels solid and monolithic. The faceplates of the Etude are definitely a work of subtle art. A deep black background is adorned with a vibrant yellow and purple glitter, gives the impressions of galactic infinity. The Kiwi Ears logo is delicately painted onto the faceplate, adding a touch of premium flair without overwhelming the composition. The overall design is simple and not flashy, striking a balance between minimalism and expressiveness. On the inner side of the shells, there is the nozzle positioned at the optimized angle to increase ergonomics. It's fairly wide, but not too long enough which may affect both feed and isolation for some users. The nozzle is made of the same resin as the shells and feature 3 individual bores, each dedicated to a separate driver. This multi-hole design helps maintain clarity and separation across the entire frequency range. And on the side, there is a vent and slightly recessed pin connector increases the stability of the connection. One small drawback is that there are no channel indication marking, which can make it challenging to connect the cable, especially for beginners and in dark rooms. However, the shape of Etude is rather bulky due to the Treble configuration, and its size is quite similar to either, where a large 15mm planar is installed. On the inner side of the shells, there is a wave-like design with multiple angles to help securely fit the IEM in your ears. While these shapes increase stability, it can also cause pressure point or slightly redness, especially with longer sessions. That makes these shells more suitable for medium to large ears. Those with smaller ears might find the Etude somewhat protruding and uncomfortable, especially during extended use. That said, thanks to carefully designed nozzle angle and ergonomic shape, the shells fit securely and snugly in my small ears, but noticeably protrude out of them, making them problematic to use on the go. However, I didn't experience any discomfort while testing them. But keep in mind that fit and comfort is very individual, and what works for me might not work for you. The isolation here is pretty good, thanks to the fully closed shell design and relatively deep fit. Okay, before we get to the sound impressions, let's talk about a feature that set Etude apart from other models, and that's the Kiwi vibration transducer. This is not a normal bone conduction driver, but rather a small vibration plate. The KVT uses powerful magnets suspended on spring to vibrate the plate, providing a tactile, physical perceptible vibration feedback that enhances the lows. It's like having a tiny subwoofer in your ears, adding a level of immersions that's hard to describe until you experience it for yourself. First of all, you can feel the vibration model by lightly tapping on the shell when it's on your ears. It's makes a vibration sound like a dual spring sound, which is not really pleasant because when you move, these noise distract you from the listening. Also, in my sample I could hear the background sound of the plate even when it's not plugged in. That's weird. When I first plugged in the IEMs and turned on the bass track, for example Skrillex, first of the year, the presence of the vibration transducer become clear. It reforms the depth and scale of the bass, which makes the music feel three-dimensional and lively. Its sound is often like the aftertouch of the drum or a stretched strings, which doesn't always show the bass in a real and organic way. But despite the overall focus of the vibration transducer on the lows, giving the bass a solid physical presence, there are audible rumbling vocal sound here, especially in the low register, which is not always reliable for the human voice. And in general, any sound that are not in the lower region and are influenced by the transducer sound a bit bloated, which is a bit annoying, and I would like to see a more precise tuning of this driver, dear Kiwi Ears. Okay, let's see how this feature form an overall sound signature. And a little note about the sources. Guys, since the transducer is quite power hungry, please do not connect these IEMs directly to a computer or a phone without at least portable DAC. Of course, with the desktop DAC they will reveal their full potential, and I recommend you to use it, but a portable DAC will be suitable for roughly reference sound. First, I would like to pay your attention to the frequency graph of the Etude. I'm not going to stay here for too long, but just show you the hump in the mid bass, which is where the impact of the transducer begins. And the sub-bass shelf is raised by 8 decibels relative to the mids, which gives a deep beginning. In reality, the lows and especially the mid bass are what create Etude's overall sound signature. The combination of dynamic driver and transducer create a massive, rounded extension and rumbling bass. For better understanding, let's split this region into two areas of impact: a 10mm dynamic driver with beryllium plating and a vibration transducer. I definitely like the tuning of the dynamic driver in these. I can clearly feel its presence in the sub-bass, which creates a deep and resonant sound, followed through the bass kick. Its boost can be felt here. It has a smooth and soft rise and also fades slowly. In the overall composition, it is controlled, feels organic and in its place. The mid-bass, which is delivered by dynamic driver, is in the shadow of the expansive sound of the vibration transducer, making it a bit lost in the ground. But despite this drawback, you can feel weighty notes here with dense texture and a fat aftertone. But the lower frequency from the transducer is without exaggeration an expressive feature that only a deaf person wouldn't feel. Okay, jokes aside, in the sub-bass region its impact didn't seem obvious to me, but the mid-bass is at its domain. With this said, you'll hear the bass punch even where you wouldn't expect it, because every low-frequency sound goes through the transducer. It's exactly that vibrating sound that reminds me of a stick hitting a drum or a bass guitar string. The bass texture here is smeared with extended decay that can be felt through a tunneled and blotted rumble. These are exactly the IEMs that let you enjoy the club music with rich bass lines. And it's especially nice to listen to DJs like Martin Garrix, Skrillex or Alan Walker. Absolutely, thanks to their rumbling sound, they immerse you in the atmosphere of the concert. However, Etude aren't suitable for ambient tracks where the vocals are the main focus, because the low-frequency rumble will be distracting. I would be careful to call it a bass headset, but be aware that the low region reproduction is very unique, and I strongly recommend you listen to these IEMs before you buy. The transducer is especially felt in the lower mids, where it adds a physical spacious and a vivid presence to the instruments, and the vocals become more rumbling and with tunnel-like coloration. I wouldn't say this adds a velvety charm to the vocals, but rather such coloration creates vibration layering. The vocals in this region sound bloated, with resonating echoes, which affects the clarity of the presentation, making the listening experience three-dimensional with an aftertouch. It is not my kind of presentation, because I couldn't get rid of the feeling of that tail remaining behind the voice. The instruments here are closer to the stage, which creates a rumbling and lively experience. They are well complemented by the balance armature and in tandem show a melodic and colorful sound on one side and voluminous, immersive on the other. If we are talking about the mid-range without transducer involvement, Kiwi Ears have tuned them flat and neutral, with a slight warm accent. The balance armature shows the mid-region as natural and accurate, with a timbral variety that is particularly well felt in the instruments. There is no over-emphasis here, which rather gives the focus on the accentuated lows. The vocals sound timbral, diverse, with an expansive emotionality. The baritone vocal register here is reproduced with deep and characteristic bassy hoarseness, which attracts but leaves some reverberation. The female vocals, on the other hand, are more perceptible and sparkling, showing the character of the armature. It's authentic and rich in the technical aspects, like timbre variety and articulation. The upper mid-range is brightly shown here, revealing a colorful, dynamic sound with an emotional element. Vocal sound becomes brightly perceptible but without sibilance or sharpness. The transducer, however, though it doesn't directly affect this region, but its reverbs
creates low-frequency pulses that make sparkling notes slightly less expressive, but creates a spacious and open sound expanding the stage. The Etude's treble is the responsibility of the dual armature tweeters, tuned for comfortable and smooth highs without overdrive or excessive brightness. They are neither screaming nor harsh, but smooth, refined and incredibly comfortable. These are not analytical tops that seek out every micro detail like analytical models, but rather a soft claw that makes the music come alive and exciting. Each bell is crystal clear, with a soft, glowing fade that floats above the music. The cymbals come alive with delicate ringing. They do not hit your ears, but rather catch them with a natural attack and smooth decay, as if you are hearing a live performance. They are placed somewhere on the stage periphery, creating a three-dimensional effect. The flute and violin soar above the strings like a bird's. Their sound is slight, ephemeral, which makes the stage wider and deeper. Etude's treble makes a huge contribution to a wide soundstage. They create a sense of spaciousness, as if music is not locked in your head, but floating around. It's a perfect balance for extended listening, especially for those sensitive to bright treble. The only nuance is that the reverb of the transducer can slightly blur the perception of the treble in very dense tracks, where there are a lot of instruments in the lower range and mid-range. For example, in complex tracks, the cymbals remain clear, but their airiness may be slightly lost against the background of rich lows. For instrumental music, this is rather a plus, which enhances the live, immersive atmosphere, but for vocals, it can be distracting. The Etude soundstage is wide and spacious, rather than high and echeloned. The transducer adds reverberation in lower region, which enhances the three-dimensional, tunnel-like effect of the stage, especially in energetic and bass-heavy music, where the vibration creates a concert vibe. This makes the sound lively and immersive, with front and background. The vocals, especially in the lower register, are at the edge of the stage, while instruments and treble take the center, making this set especially suitable for EDM, dubstep, house, and also partly for rock and hip-hop. Separation here is at medium level, and in the region of smeared lows, the sound here are layered on top of each other to create a single canvas. The transducer here concentrates the sound into a sphere, making the stage not wide enough to allow instruments and vocals to take their place in the track. However, the mid and treble ranges are somewhat better separated, which compensates for the smeared sound of the lows. The visualization also suffers a little and remains inaccurate in the lower region, and the aftertouch makes it hard to determine of the direction of the sound, though some of the special effects and immersive sounds are rendered quite accurately. But dear gamers, I do not recommend Etude to you because their sound signature is completely unsuitable for games. They are made purely for music. Well guys, let me remind you that Kiwi Ears Etude is a hybrid model, equipped with one dynamic driver, 3 balanced armatures, and their main feature, the Kiwi vibration transducer, which sets the tone of the sound, creating their sound signature. It gives a 3-dimensional, vibrating low-frequency rumble that transports you into the crowd at the club music concert. It's a very unique and distinctive experience that won't suit everyone. Their sound cannot be precisely described in words. You have to feel it to understand it, though it isn't without its downsides in the form of blotted impact. Otherwise, if we leave the transducer alone, the balanced armature shows a tonally balanced mid-range, with a very good tuning to balance musicality and slight warmth. And the dual tweeter armatures reproduce sparkling but soft treble, without a hint of harshness, making for a comfortable listening experience, even for hours. And guys, please don't forget a good deck. Etude loves power to reveal its vibrational potential. In the end, the Kiwi Ears Etude are a musical rocket that for $119 takes you into a world of deep bass, spacious stage, and vibrating energy. I'll be honest with you, they are not perfect. The reverb transducer reduces clarity, and the shape of the shells may not be for everyone. But for those who want to feel the music with their skin, these are the real deal. If you're looking for IEMs that turn music into a three-dimensional, pulsating experience, or love to immerse yourself in live, rocking performance of genres like EDM, dubstep, rock, hip-hop, then Etude is your bold choice. The transducer vibration makes every track feel tangible and alive, like you are in the front row. But if you need IEMs for podcasts, movies, or gaming, or if you are looking for analytical sound, you should look at other models. A huge thanks to Linsol for the opportunity to share the impressions of these beauties. You guys are incredible. And the links to buy the Etude are as always in the descriptions. And what do you think of the Etude and their vibration transducer? Have you tried them, or are you looking out for other IEMs? Leave your comments below. Like this video and subscribe so you won't miss new videos. See you soon, take care, and bye bye!